I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times. Welcome back, everyone, to our first recording of 2026. Our new parent company, this was fun, gave us a great surprise and lengthy time off during the holidays. And oh my God, it was great. I'm not sure I personally or all of us realized how much we needed that, but we
Mhm.
did. And we're very thankful to our overlords at ARC. We love you. Anyway, we're back for what is shaping up to be a very, very interesting year for credit unions. But before we really get into everything, I wanted to ask Natasha, producer Zach, if there is anything personally or professionally you all are looking forward to in this new year of 2026. Natasha?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just moved into a new house and moved back
Right.
to Los Angeles
Right.
permanently after
Hooray.
like 6 years or maybe more than that.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big change,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I feel like I haven't even really got my grip on anything yet because it's only been like a couple of weeks. Like I've just been focusing on like getting the inside of the house set up like this
How's it
whole
going?
time. It's
How's it going?
good. Yeah, I think the inside is finally pretty much set the way I want it. I do have someone coming in this weekend to install some wallpapering. So
Okay.
that'll be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just been so many things, and I never realized comes into play with living in a home that you are not renting, but are,
Right.
well, my parents are the owners, so I'm not actually the
Yeah.
owner, but pretty
Okay.
much the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and then so something else I'm planning on that it's still right now the idea of it is like stressful. I'm not ready to
Uh,
like do it this second. I need to just get into a really
okay.
good settled routine, but I'm planning on introducing a new puppy to the household.
What?
Hopefully, yeah. So I'm thinking like probably March, April is
Oh
what
my
I'm aiming
God.
for right now. Yeah. So yeah, I've been on this app called Good Dog
Okay.
that it just connects you with different breeders in the area. And so
Okay.
yeah, I'm looking at one. There's this one in Newport Beach that I've chatted with a little bit, and she
Mm.
has the cutest little like teddy bear face Pomeranians.
Oh
I think the
Lord.
parrots
Okay.
originated from Korea, and
Okay.
they're just so cute. So that's what I'm
Okay.
thinking right now. Yeah, it's going to
Mm.
be, but I have to do a lot of planning and make sure, I
Yeah.
really am like ready because I'm very routine oriented
Yeah.
and I also get overwhelmed quickly. So I just need to make sure that like I'm ready and that I have
Okay.
the plan in place. But
That is
that's what
very
I'm looking
exciting.
forward to. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great answer. Producer Zach, what about you?
Well, we are also looking to welcome a new addition around March or April.
That's
Right.
right.
Oh.
We're going to have a new family member. My wife is pregnant with a baby boy.
Oh, what's up?
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh. So you're gonna have a girl and a
Congratulations.
boy. Yeah, I know. I didn't know the gender yet, so that's exciting. So you'll have a girl and a boy, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit ago, we've had
Yeah.
I don't think I've talked to you all. But yeah, also have
Well,
to, prepare, worry about my routines being busted.
that's for sure. Way more so. Yeah, way more so than mine. I'm sure.
Oh, that's great, Zach.
Yeah.
And how's your wife doing?
She's good, as good as a pregnant person.
Okay.
He's already almost 2 pounds, so she's feels
Okay.
like she's already running out of room.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I was fortunate enough to meet her and your daughter at Luminaries, this past November. They were so honking nice, and I'm very, very happy for you all. That's great. Okay,
And what
my
about you?
answer, my
Yeah.
answer is really dumb.
Oh.
Listening to the two of you, well, it's real weirdly focused professionally. I'm making it a goal this year to connect with more credit union leaders than I do. You know,
Yeah.
I
Sure.
feel I have felt pretty isolated, especially since COVID. And
Yep.
I'm going to try to get out there more and in person to meet with leaders face to face
Yeah.
and instead of just on the phone and whatever. So that's kind of a professional goal of mine
Great.
this year.
Yeah, and I'm feeling a little it's dumb now that I didn't even mention anything professional,
Hmm.
because we are working currently doing
Oh,
a
yeah.
podcast and I should be, I was just thinking about yeah, big things that are, just my life.
Yeah.
I would say I actually want to do the same and that also coincides with moving back to LA. I'm now
Absolutely.
around people because I was living in
Yeah.
just very rural, middle of
Yeah.
nowhere Timbuktu places for a while and there wasn't
Nice.
anyone around. So, yeah, that is one thing I want to do as far as like connecting with people because it's
Yeah,
actually a very lonely city, LA. It's very hard to like
sure.
find a community. And I was thinking, well, why don't there must be something with the credit unions. I don't know, the league or the
Yeah,
something. I haven't really looked into it, but if anyone listening is in LA or in Madison with Michael, where he is,
sure.
please feel free to invite us to all the things now because we're wanting to get out there and talk to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
I'll put your all cell phone numbers in the show notes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Zach. We should probably start this first show of 2026. Producer Zach, Natasha, thank you for those answers. And everybody else, we love you and welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we are chatting with Bill Handel. He's General Manager, Chief Economist at Raddon, a financial services research company. It's part of Fiserv, and he is going to be sharing his fintech predictions for credit unions in 2026. We had a beautiful discussion with him, and Bill is so honking nice and smart. It was such a great way to start 2026. So I love that. First up, we have to take a break from the week, even though we just started it. Let's check in with Natasha. Hey, Ed.
Hey, Em.
How are you?
Good, good. Happy 2026. Happy
Happy
New Year.
2026. I actually stayed up till midnight. I think it was the
Really?
first time in years. I mean,
Well,
but I was
wow.
in bed reading,
Okay.
so
Well, that counts,
yeah, I guess.
Did you bring a little glass of champagne into bed or
Nope.
just okay? I don't
I
know.
heard fireworks outside and I was like, oh, it must be midnight. And I looked at my watch and it was. So there.
Okay. Were you in DC? Because I know you took a trip to DC. Is that where you spent New
No,
Year's?
I was in
Oh,
Madison
oh,
for
okay.
New Year's.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went to DC for just a few days during the break. Again, the much appreciated break that I
Yeah.
got.
Yeah. Really.
It was really wonderful, and it timed well for you moving too.
It really did. Yeah. So
So
I pretty much, was able to take time to focus on the move, which was really helpful.
great. I took time with my gin and tonics. So
There you go. Yeah.
that's what I did. Let's get to this interview. We kind of chatted a bit more there at the top of the show, but I do want to ask. I haven't checked in with you in a long time. What have you been watching this past week?
Yeah, so I mean, I will have to say again, this move has just taken over my life, so I
Sure.
haven't really had as much time as I would have liked to just sit and watch things. But I am still keeping up with my true crime, of course. That seems to be first on the list before I
Okay.
get into any movies. I wanted to actually bring up one quickly and possibly even loop in Zach because I know he is a fan of cults. And so I just
What a
finished,
sentence.
or he is a fan of the psychology behind cults, I believe. But I watched a 3-part new docuseries on HBO, The Cult Behind the Killer, and it was about warning, a very, very disturbing, bad story. But it was the Andrea Yates from 2001
Oh,
who
sure.
drowned her 5 children.
Yeah.
But it was actually really an interesting documentary because it interviewed other people that were sucked into that same like cult that she
Mm-hmm.
was sucked into that
Yeah.
kind of led to what happened in addition to like I guess it was like a postpartum psychosis thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. She was sucked into this Michael Wykowski, just like a really fanatical religious thing where he was like standing on the go outside of college campuses with a sign and like yell out like you're going to hell and it was like this whole thing. And then they interviewed other people that were connected with him and just how their lives were ruined. Anyway, Zach might be a good one to check out. I thought of you when I watched it.
Not sure how to take that, but I have written it down because I do love true crime, just like you.
Good. Okay, great.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a good one. Anyway, all
I'm
right.
so happy I'm not associated with any of that.
Well, yeah, you should be. Okay, Michael,
Okay,
what
good.
about you?
I very quickly, kind of in honor of the tragedy of the Rob Reiner situation
Oh, yeah.
that happened a handful of weeks ago now, I rewatched Misery.
Oh my
It
God,
was-
that's one of my
It's
favorites
still so
ever.
good.
So good.
Kathy Bates is just incredible in it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that the day after Christmas. It was great.
Great pick. Yeah, I agree. That is what's like your favorite part? I just always think of like the when he's writing the novel, like, and it's like he's doing so much writing. And first of all, it's impressive that he's able to like bust out a novel while he's being held hostage.
Sure.
Yeah, and when she turns, it's like, whoa, that's like the
I
creepiest part because she turns from being like,
sure.
he's like, oh, you're so nice, you're so kind, and then
Right.
it's like, oh god, no,
What I really love about her character in that movie is her inability when she's a very odd person, but that she doesn't swear. And so she says, cock a doody car.
yeah,
She says stuff like that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that just makes me laugh every time, when
yeah,
she does her own version of swearing. And I love that. I think that's really
yeah.
funny.
Great pick,
So
great
good.
pick in honor of what happened. That's insane, and it's still going on
Yep.
here in
I hate it.
L.A.
I
Anyway,
hate it. But great
okay,
movie. Okay. Let's move
okay.
on.
Well, let's move on to our interview with Bill Handel. It was a great way to kick off the year, I think, of
Oh,
our
yeah.
podcast series here. Yeah, I talked about all kinds of things. One thing was just the uncertainty with the economic landscape right now happening, which
Mhm.
he goes into how it's very different in some ways even worse than what people went through in like the Great Recession. But he talks about some really great solutions as well. So, for example, how you can use technology to create more personalization to
Mhm.
help the member figure out what it is they need in this time of economic uncertainty.
Yep.
Get into AI, goes into how he really kind of paints a picture of it well, like we're just on the cusp of it. Like AI
Mhm.
was sort of like treated as a pilot prior to this year, and now
Yep.
it's like we're actually using it. So I think, yeah, get into a really great discussion about AI. And then also how credit unions can remain relevant and attract the younger generation and create loyalty. Has some really good advice about that. So lots of excellent stuff here. You definitely want to stick around. We have all of that coming up next.
Hey, listeners, the CU Growth and Innovation Summit is where credit union leaders can tackle real challenges such as AI, lending, compliance, and a lot more. It's a really fun show. I was able to go down there last year. It's all peer led, action focused. There are no slideshows, just smart strategy and great conversations. It is happening February 9th through 11th in Oak Brook, Illinois. That's just outside Chicago. You can register now at cugrowthsummit.com. That's cugrowthsummit.com.
Joining us in the virtual studio today is Bill Handel, General Manager and Chief Economist at Raddon, a Fiserv company, and he is based up in the Chicago area. Hey, Bill, welcome to Shared Accounts.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
Of course, Bill, how have
So
you
happy to have
been?
you. Yeah.
Yeah, how have you been? It's been a long time.
It has been a while. It has been a while. We've been really, really good. We've been very busy, as I think
Yeah.
everybody else here has been. Probably more change than we've ever seen happening in
Wow.
the industry and happening in the economy and happening every place else. So times of change are always times of challenge, but times of opportunity.
Very good.
Absolutely. Well, that's why we wanted you on today to discuss those changes and get your insights. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So we're now at the beginning of a new year, fresh start in 2026. It's kind of the time of the year where we get a lot of inquiries and pitches about predictions for the next year in the industry and in regard to fintech and all the tech use and AI and all that. So, I wanted to ask you, now that we're going into a new year here, if we look back on 2025, what would you say were credit unions? What were some of their biggest accomplishments or advancements in terms of their use of fintech throughout the year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I look at it in a couple of different ways. First of all, you say, well, are we talking about fintech as a technology? Or are you talking about fintech as a business?
Hmm.
As a business side of things, and as in some cases, competitors. I think that's probably one of the biggest changes we've seen in 2025 is that partnership that's really emerging between credit unions and the fintech industry as a whole.
Hmm.
It's a really interesting thing. I think we're now somewhere around 50% of all fintechs now have partnerships with credit unions in the United States, which was a very
Oh,
significant
wow.
growth in
Whoa.
2025.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wait, Bill, can I ask you something? How
sure.
quickly has it shot up to 50%?
It's shot up very rapidly. It was about a 20% growth in 20 from 2024 just in terms of that. So it's pretty
Woof.
significant.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I think what it represents is this notion. It's not surprising because if you think about people who run or own fintechs, they're just like every other consumer in the United States. And I think initially, as they thought about financial services, they thought about banks. But then they
Right.
begin to recognize the very important role that credit unions have in consumer finance in the United States. And that's why I think we've seen this real attraction happening out there, especially the credit
Mhm.
union brand tends to be so strong in the consumer space. Those people who use credit unions tend to be very strongly aligned with those credit unions and great proponents. And I think the fintechs have seen some real advantage there. So I think that's why we're seeing that change happen.
Wow.
Well, you mentioned consumers here now a couple of times. What is today's digital banking consumer? What are they looking for from maybe an experience or even functionality standpoint?
The thing that we see in the consumer is that certain things which just a few short years ago were exceptional in nature are now table stakes. And I
Mhm.
think that's the key thing to keep in mind. The notion that we offer, some of these capabilities, even 5 years ago, we're seeing is almost unique out there are no longer unique. And so I think we can no longer think about ourselves as quote innovating in the digital space.
Huh.
It's not really innovating per se. It's really keeping pace with what everybody else is doing.
Mhm.
I think the other thing that though it's important to recognize is that this notion of everybody's talking about the digital native, and especially when you talk about younger consumers, you say, "Oh, they're digital natives," and it is
Yeah.
true. When you talk about a Gen Alpha, those very young people, they've grown up with iPhones their entire life.
Yep.
Most of the Gen Zs, the same thing, and so they truly are digital natives. We think the big mistake that's made is saying that digital native or digital first means digital only, and it doesn't. I think
Right.
that's what credit unions have to really recognize as their significant opportunity is to really blend all the delivery platforms together into one integrated experience with the membership. We actually believe that the organizations that are going to be most effective long term are the ones that will actually have that blended experience. It's not just all about the digital experience, but it's about every way in which you interact with the member.
I
Mhm.
like that.
Really interesting. Yeah.
Blended experience, I think, is very interesting.
Right. Yeah, because that is a big point right now is how can we attract the Gen Z in the credit union space being digital natives, but then they still have, members of all generations are still banking with them and they still like to come in the branch and connect in other ways. So, yeah, that's really interesting. But yeah, so Bill, you mentioned that just focusing on the digital instead of sort of more of a holistic approach is a mistake. I was going to ask, are there any other areas where credit unions might be falling short right now in terms of meeting what today's consumer wants? Also, in the area of, you mentioned earlier in your answer to Michael's question of the table stakes, it's the things that were unique are now table stakes. Like
Hmm.
everyone, they assume an app, they expect every app to function the way, like, if you're shopping on Amazon, like if it's
Right.
anything below that, it's like, okay, this is too much friction for me. Can you kind of elaborate on like how well are credit unions meeting these things that need to be met right now?
It's a mixed bag, to be quite honest with you. And
Mm,
a part of this is that we don't really rightfully know where things are going.
Huh.
We don't
mm,
know what's actually going to be the next quote winning thing that's out there.
Yeah.
So
mm,
we're experimenting in a lot of different areas. That's part of it. But the other part of it is quite honestly is the cost, and it's quite
mm,
substantial. And you look at the credit union industry, and it's comprised heavily, heavily of smaller entities who don't have the budgets to be able to do some of these types of things. So we're dabbling out there, and we're trying to figure out what are the things to really focus in on. What are the things that are going to help us to be more effective? Some organizations have been very, very effective in the digital side. They tend to be a little bit larger.
Okay.
Some credit unions have struggled a little bit more, and they're really continuing to rely upon that strong brand that they've built with their membership over the years. That doesn't solve the problem of continued new growth, and that's what they really have to address. That's why we think this notion of more partnership with fintechs. Traditionally, we looked at fintechs as competitors. We
Yep.
really ought to be thinking about fintechs differently. Many of the fintechs want to partner with us, and we ought to be looking for those opportunities to be able to bring some better technology into play and to be able
mhm,
to develop better things overall.
And I remember, Bill, back in gosh, 2011, 2012, maybe,
Yeah,
having those discussions like, oh my God, fintechs are going to
I remember
crush the
that.
system, you know?
Yeah.
They call them the disruptors or something.
Right.
The
I'm so
yeah,
glad we're moving past that,
yeah.
honestly. But into kind of a different issue here, Bill, talking about just economic uncertainty. And I wanted to ask, how has, or even has, economic uncertainty influenced what consumers are looking for from financial institutions, credit unions, whatever? How can they meet those needs?
Yeah, really, really good question. I think it points to a bigger trend that I think we all have to address around this notion of digitalization, and that is digitalization, for very obvious reasons, emerges as a transactional thing. It's a way to facilitate transactions, a focus on efficiency, focus on expanding convenience beyond just the locational thing, right?
Mm,
That's where digitalization really gained its legs, so to speak. And I think were a lot of the ways in which we looked at it. I think we have to begin thinking about it differently. We have to think about the notion of how does digital expand or enhance our ability to be more personal with the member, which sounds, on its surface sounds a little odd, right?
Yeah.
How does digital make you more personal? But that's where we
sure.
use data more effectively. We have so much data in this industry. When we can take that data and use that data to understand what that consumer, what that member is actually interested in, what they're
Mhm.
doing, what their interests are, and so that we can point them to the right solutions. So I think that personalization is really a key thing we ought to be pointing to in terms of that next evolution, in terms of how digital evolves. And then the other piece of this, which is somewhat related, but not entirely related, is environment of economic uncertainty. And I would suggest that this economic uncertainty is greater than anything we faced in 2008, anything we faced in 2001,
Yeah.
because what it really is it's a structural uncertainty as opposed to a cyclical uncertainty. And what I mean by that is, you have periods like 2008 and 2001 where we had recessions, in a case 2008, very deep recession, which was
Hmm.
driven by cyclical factors, too much debt, things like that. Where we are today in terms of uncertainty is more structural. The entire structure of our economy is actually under metamorphosis.
Yeah.
And so this is more unsettling for a wider variety of people. Think about AI and its impact on jobs in the future. I mean, everybody's talking about these types of things.
Yep.
So when you think about that and the role of a credit union in dealing with this membership, this notion of helping them to feel more financially secure is really, really critical. Knowing that they're making the right types of decisions. Even though we could lend them money, maybe they shouldn't be borrowing for
Yeah.
this specific purpose. All these types of things are where we can use technology to help our members make better decisions and therefore be better off in their lives. So I think it's a real interesting point of inflection, I think, for the industry overall. And
Mhm.
that's not just credit, but that's banks as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, definitely unprecedented time in terms of the economy and everything. But that's a good segue because you did bring up AI very briefly there and wanted to kind of transition into that topic, which has obviously been was a very hot topic all last year. I'm sure it will be this year as well. You mentioned, AI potentially taking jobs away, of course, being at top of mind.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit more about what does AI mean, not even just in terms of financial services, but just for the today's American consumer of any goods and services? What is their relationship with AI today, and how are they viewing it? Like, how does it fit into their journey of purchasing things, being a consumer of different goods and services? And what are some of the pros and cons of it, do you think?
Yeah. That is a great question. That could be the focus of a 3-day podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a really intriguing area. You can go back in history and look at similar times, and yet and there have been similar times to this where innovation has been so hugely impactful. This is unique in some ways, but it's also very similar in some ways to past patterns. I think we're only on the cusp of AI.
Mm,
We really are. I mean, I would almost say that prior to 2026, we were kind of using AI in pilot, and where we are
Okay.
now, it's becoming a more core part of what we do, both as individuals, but also as companies, as business entities, things like this. So I think you'll see more and more of a role in AI, not only in this industry, but also in use by consumers. Here's a great illustration from a consumer perspective.
Okay.
Browsers may just go away. You know, right?
Huh.
Instead of going out and browsing, just simply ask ChatGTP or ask Copilot to, you ask it a question, it can answer it for you. Who needs a browser anymore, right? You think about those are positive gains out there that are really out there, but then you have the whole negative side that so many people are concerned about. If I'm in the accounting practice, I would be really concerned, to be quite honest with you. If I'm in code development, I would really be concerned. If I'm in
Yeah.
certain levels of finance, I'd be concerned about my job is probably not as necessary today as it was a year or two ago.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of that mixed bag where I think overall as a society we benefit from AI, but there will be dislocations that happen as a result, and things will transform, and what people do will have to change. So those are the types of things that are happening. I think we're only on the cusp of it right now as we move into
Mhm.
2026. Much more widespread uses of AI in this industry as well as in other industries, and
Yeah.
I think it will drive very, very significant change. I don't think it's dystopian like sometimes it's painted out, but I think plenty of forecasts are out there.
Can I need to mention just a couple of quick things. If you want to watch Bill, you probably already do this, but even our listeners, if you want to watch like really where some, I don't know if to call it crazy or brilliant uses of AI that are happening right now, the Consumer Electronics Show's going on, CES. Look at the tech that's coming out of that show this year. It is all AI right now.
Yeah, yeah,
And
everything.
the other thing, if you really want to keep an eye on what marketers are doing, what Google ad tech people are doing, subscribe to Ad Week. I don't know if you do, but they really give a great detailed insight of how AI is being used in marketing across all channels.
Hmm.
It's really fascinating. One other thing I want to bring up, Bill, from a consumer standpoint, I really hope AI progresses into the best chatbot
Hmm.
in the world. I had an experience this past week with the company I was dealing with, and I got a hold of their AI chatbot on the phone, a voice. This voice and my interaction with it was the best I have
Really?
ever
Huh.
experienced. And it was this female voice, and she was like, "Oh, hey, Michael, what can I do for you?" And I explained. She's like, "Okay, well, here, let's think about these." And then I said kind of a joke, and the chatbot went, "That's funny, Michael," and literally laughed at my dumb joke because I was just screwing around. And I was like, you know what? I had a great time.
Well,
Hmm.
now this
Yeah,
company's got you as a consumer customer for life because they
hell
found
yeah.
out how to flatter you.
Yeah, I know. It
Yeah.
was really interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. Some of these when you interface with some of these chatbots, it's fascinating because they'll put pauses into their speech. They'll do
Yes.
ums and inflections and things like this that make it very real. And I would challenge you, if you had heard this 4 or 5 years ago without knowing anything about this, if you wouldn't have thought this was actually a human.
100%.
Right. Right.
Yeah, the chatbot did go, huh, like, let me think. It was natural pauses, and I was thrilled with it personally.
I don't know. Still kind of creepy.
I don't know, I guess.
No? I don't know. I
Uh,
still find that creepy
yeah,
personally.
okay. Let me ask you this, Bill. What are some of the top ways credit unions are successfully using AI right now to benefit not only their business, but serving members?
Yeah. Okay. That's a really very, very fair question. I think it's an important question. And I
Mm.
think you can grade these things out, but I would say probably one of the very first areas is around fraud and risk. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
You can just get so much deeper in terms of looking at patterns, just in a way that we just don't have the bandwidth or the capability to do as
Hmm.
quote humans. I think that's where you're going to see some of the most important gains is around fraud and risk and detecting those patterns and intercepting those patterns
Yeah, I
and
hope
stopping.
so.
The other area which I think we've made really great strides is around lending because I think that there's so much data that's out there that can actually that can strengthen the lending models that we have today.
Hmm.
There's so much data, especially somebody who's already a member with you, but even people who aren't necessarily a member with you today. There's so much data out there that if we could synthesize that data and we could interpret it effectively, we could make better lending decisions. I think you'd improve the value of FICO dramatically. I mean, well, you'd enhance on the value of FICO
Yeah.
scores really, really dramatically. So I think those two things are already underway. The third area that I think is also very big, and it's happening today, but only beginning to happen, is the personalization. The notion that I can use this to identify what is the right thing to talk to the member about.
Yeah.
But I want the member to become more deeply engaged with me. What are those things that I need to be talking about? 30 years ago, when everybody came into a branch and the teller knew, or the teller or the frontline staff, platform staff knew everybody, we built that relationship and we understood those things and we could talk about their kids and all that. We don't
Yeah.
have that today in the digital world, but we have the data to be able to replicate that and really have that personal
Mhm.
conversation, make the right types of offers, things that make more sense than ever to that consumer, because we know what it is that they're engaged in and the things that are of interest to them and the things that they need to get done. So I think that personalization
Yeah.
is something that's really beginning, but I think it's going to become more and more important for us.
Totally. Totally. It's
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
that version of reacting to a dumb
Yeah,
joke, you
yeah,
know. Good one, Michael. Anyway.
Right. Anyway, okay, no, that's very valuable use cases there. Yeah, and that's good that you mention all those because I know we'll get articles and stories from credit unions, and a lot of them are kind of just using it for
yeah,
like back office efficiency right now, which is still
yeah.
helpful, but yeah, not as big of an impact as
Yeah, call center
the
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure,
right,
and for
yeah,
sure.
with the
I don't
member.
didn't mean to short. I think that's the very first ways in which it's been used as the back office automation. How do we do things more
Hmm.
efficiently? I mean, for sure, you want to be able to do that. That makes a lot of sense. And the other area, which go back to what you said, Michael, I do think that we will get to the point, maybe not 26, but we'll get to the point where we'll be using chatbots much more effectively. We have to be careful with that because you'll get
Yeah.
that range of
Hmm.
response in terms of whether you're comfortable with it or uncomfortable with it. And I don't think we can ever pretend like this chatbot is a human. You do that and then you get caught with it. I think that's could be really too.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, be
you need
honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and that was gonna be my next question for you, Bill, is how do you see, just going now into a new year, how do you see credit unions' use of AI changing and evolving? Like, what do you think is coming next?
Well, I don't. I think it's these exact things that we're talking about here. I just think we'll see more of them, and we'll see more emphasis in certain areas.
Mhm.
So we'll become more effective in using it back office. We'll find ways. I mean, even to the, like Michael, you mentioned, like writing marketing material. I mean,
Hmm.
you just make that process much more efficient. Other areas in back office, I think that will continue. I think the evolution in lending will continue. The
Yeah.
evolution in fraud will continue. I think the areas that we'll see the biggest potential growth in terms of use is around the personalization, number one.
Mm.
And then I think also around dabbling into this member support, where we actually can use conversational assistance to give us essentially 24/7,
Yep.
type of
Mhm.
service. That changes things quite a bit, right?
Sure. Let's pivot a bit away from AI now,
Okay.
because again, Bill, we should have you back and have that 3 hour episode. But we do need to, well, I want to hit a few more points before we wrap things up. Where do you think the credit union industry is in terms of adoption of real time or instant payments?
Yeah, we're getting there, but we're not there.
Okay.
Mm.
Like everybody else, we're trying to manage the risk reward trade off
Yeah.
that's there.
Yeah.
We all know the risks that are there with real time payments. What happens when payment is fraudulent, and all these types of issues we're struggling with. I think we're on the path, but we're not quite where we need to be yet in
Yeah.
terms of that.
I feel like only a handful of credit unions are really getting this right.
Yeah, I think we're extraordinarily cautious is probably the best way to
Yeah.
state this, and that's a little bit troubling because we think the biggest area of risk for the industry is with the younger demographics.
Hmm.
That's where our greatest challenge is as an industry, is that we're not attracting enough of the younger demographics, and real time payments is just, it's more than important. It's just an expectation.
Yeah. Well, the second part to
Mhm.
this question, and I do agree with you because that's really the only way I communicate with my sons is, hey, I need money. And
It only goes one way, doesn't it?
it only does. Anyway, but how are credit unions using tech now And where do you think they should be heading next in terms of meeting these expectations you're talking about for real time instant payments?
I think if you look at it, I think the most common cases will use it to receive money, right? That's kind of
Yep.
where we're at.
Yep.
And I think we have to be thinking about sending payments consumer to consumer, consumer to business. I think the notion that we will charge for expedited payments, made real time is, I personally believe that it's a crazy idea.
I
And
agree.
don't think that we can really survive. I mean, that's a fine strategy 5 years ago, but it's not a
Yeah.
fine
Yeah.
strategy for today. It's a fine strategy when you first introduce something. You might as well try and generate some revenue to offset the cost of developing it. But today, it doesn't make sense. I think we just have to continue to focus on real time. And and honestly, the rails are out there. They're being developed. They're
Yeah.
good. They will continue to get better. We just need to put the priority on that as an
Right.
industry.
It's interesting. Yeah, and there was so much chatter about it when like the Fed Now launched, and it was like kind of this big news, and a lot of credit unions were jumping on it, but we haven't heard so much about it. And also, I know that the ability to receive money was easy, but then to do a send was like a lot of credit unions weren't enabling that yet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah. But going back to the whole generational challenge, Bill, I wanted to ask a little bit more about that. What do you think are credit unions' biggest challenges in terms of growing membership and building loyalty with the younger generation? I know you mentioned being able to send in money easily. They're going to use Venmo, whatever's easiest. Where does the credit union fit in with that? That's one element of it. But yeah, what else do you think are like what are the biggest challenges that they are facing right now with this younger digital first generation?
Yeah, great question. And the easy answer there is technology, but I don't actually think that's the necessarily the right answer, or it's at least it's not the only answer. Let me put it
Mm,
that way. When you look at what Chase Bank, for example, spends on technology in a year, it dwarfs what the entire credit industry can spend on technology, right? We know that.
right.
And we know there's a difference there. A lot of what they're doing is testing and evaluating, and a lot of money that they spend is money that will never be, quote, utilized. It doesn't result in something that will actually evolve, and that's fine.
Mm,
That's what the role of R&D actually is. But I don't actually, we actually don't think that's really what the challenge is. I think the bigger issue is around brand building. It's
mm,
around how do you project what it is and what you stand for. And it's unfortunate, I think, for the industry. We think for the industry that that's the case because there is not a better business model that's consumer friendly than what credit unions are. There really
right,
is. And yet,
right.
the younger consumer is just thinking very transactionally, and the perception is that Chase or B of A or Wells or some other bank is obviously they're the easiest. I see them all the time advertising. All they do is talk about their technology. That must be the best place for me to go. But when you think about what the needs of a younger consumer really are, I mean, in a very uncertain world, credit unions really should be the answer. So I think there's a big issue here around credit unions figuring out how to really project what they are and
Yeah.
what they stand for
Mhm,
and their true value proposition. It is
right.
technology is the table stakes, but what credit unions, what they're there for, it's not for stockholders. It's for members, right? That's a key
Mhm,
difference overall. And I think I saw an article that was talking about the billions of dollars that have been paid back in member
Dividends.
rewards
Yeah.
programs that just in this past year. It's pretty substantial, but that's not even the full equation either. It's really about somebody who's there to help you make the right decisions and lead the right type of financial life.
mhm,
And
Hey, man, if credit unions can figure it out, I mean, that is the continued problem in DC, with America's credit unions and DC UC, getting that message across to lawmakers.
yeah,
mhm.
For decades, it's been a problem,
yeah.
obviously. I have one kind of final question for you as we head into the second part of the interview, and this is about predictions. We talked a bit about it, but what do you see coming next as it relates to credit union and fintech innovations and offerings from vendor partners this year?
I would say that the best prediction I could make about this is just more and better of down the same path, because I do think that, where we've moved to is from pilot to making it much more a core part of our offerings.
Mhm.
So I think that there will be much more AI utilized across all these areas that we talked about. I think there's going to be a lot more movement to the cloud. I think there will be a lot more in terms of real time payments and a lot more in embedded finance.
Yeah.
I think all these types of things are going to happen. I think if you thought about it in terms of big themes, though, I think the two things that we'll be focusing in on are how do we drive more productivity slash efficiency in what we do.
Hmm.
But I think the thing that will begin to outweigh that is member engagement. So, how do we utilize these tools to generate more engagement from the membership?
Okay.
Mhm. Right.
I think that's the major change that we think you'll begin to see as we move into 2026.
Hmm. All right.
Interesting. Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah. The idea of technology, which at its face, you would think it can mean disconnection, like separation, but then using it to create more connection instead, if that's makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
All right, Bill. Well, let's go ahead and move on to part two of our interview. This is going to be a lot of fun. It is all about you. Are you ready?
I guess I am.
Okay, yeah. Okay, first question. We often like to start with this question. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
All right. I grew up in a small town in Ohio called Youngstown, Ohio. It's halfway
Oh,
between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. And when I was growing up, and this will date me, but when I was growing up, it was actually just ending in its reign as one of the major steel towns in the United States.
Absolutely.
oh,
Yeah, so it
okay.
was really part of that what they ended up calling the Rust Belt in Northeast Ohio.
Russ Butt
Rust
also,
Belt,
you know,
That could be a good
yeah,
nickname too. Yeah.
Rust Belt.
Isabel, yeah, okay. Like so being the last steel town, is that what it's known for? What it's most known for? Or is there anything else that Youngstown is known for?
Well, if you're an NFL fan, it was the home of a football player named Rom Jaworski, who was also known
Okay.
as Polish Rifle,
yeah,
if
yep,
you
Oh,
remember him.
I do.
It actually is also one of the largest Sicilian populations in the United States. Um,
It is.
yeah, it was actually a gathering point for a lot of the Sicilians who came across, back in the 19th century, so 19th,
Hmm.
20th century. So it was also known for that. But it's a relatively small town.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, I went to Ohio State,
Oh,
and
okay.
in my early days of journalism, I had to go out to Youngstown
Yeah.
a handful of times. I have a very dear friend from Youngstown because it's also known not only for Sicilian, but it's Greek
Yep.
population there. I think it's gotten better over the years.
Yeah, it definitely has. It definitely has gotten better. It's Youngstown itself as at a core is still struggles a little bit, but the surrounding communities are actually quite
Yep.
strong, which is really interesting to see that. So I still have one brother who lives in that area. So I
Okay.
do get to get out
Oh,
there on
okay.
occasion. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I got a question for you though. Are you more of a Steelers fan then or a Browns fan?
That's interesting. Back then when I was a kid growing up, the Steelers were the better team.
Yeah,
The
still are.
Browns were not very well. The Browns haven't been good for a long time.
No, it's been decades on that one.
But I really, it was funny. I didn't follow any of them that closely, and to the point now that my true allegiance is to the Chicago Bears. So
Absolutely.
go
Sure.
Bears!
Okay.
Yeah.
Go Bears. Okay, second question, Bill. Are you a fan of New Year's resolutions?
You know what? I have to admit, I am not. I am not, and
No.
the reason is because I don't like failure, and I know that if I make resolutions, I'm going to fail.
Okay.
I am with you 100% on that. But do you set any sort of goal for the year for you, like personally or anything like that?
I kind of set big, broad objectives for myself in terms of things I
Yeah.
want to get done this year, but it's typically not, I want to go to the gym more, things like that. I don't do that kind of thing because
No. Yeah.
those things can kind of set you up for failure. I kind of like set broad strategic goals for myself of what I want to be doing, but as this year evolves and things like that.
I think that's a healthy approach,
Yeah.
That's
honestly.
fair.
It
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
much better to me, I'll tell you that, because
Yeah, I agree. Great. I'm not burdened for anything because I didn't set a goal or whatever. Yeah, I
There
think
you
that's
go.
great.
Yeah. Okay. Next question, Bill. So, just going a little bit back to our main interview theme and technology. This is kind of an interesting question. Michael and producer Zach and I asked each other this question a few podcasts back and thought it was interesting. So, I wanted to ask you, when you think of like just a piece, like a specific piece of technology or advancement that you particularly yourself appreciate and that helps you in your like day-to-day life that you like, and maybe you could even say like you couldn't live without it, what comes to mind for you?
well, I would assume I'm not allowed to say my mobile phone, right?
Yeah,
You
well, I've said
can.
that. I mean, I said because I couldn't think of anything real specific, but yeah, I guess yeah, looking for more of a something specific. Like for example, Michael, what did you say? You said the well
Mine
in
was
the
just
car.
Oh, the reverse camera in
The
my
reverse
car.
camera in your car, I guess was that.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Can't do without that.
Yeah, I mean, those things that are they're relatively small, but you don't think about it until they become
Yeah.
much more
Yeah.
important to you. And yeah, I'm trying to think, what is a good? That's a really good question. I mean, that would have been my first answer was, well, the mobile phone, because I
Yeah,
just
of
Of
course.
course, yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
But the other one I would say is actually interesting is AI. I'm using AI more and more, and I
Oh,
find it to be
yeah.
a very, very good resource just for me to quickly get a handle, no pun intended, on things, just to
Sure.
get a sense of what's the broad strokes that are happening out in some area. I find it really fascinating. One thing though is I do know, and I think this is a lesson for all of us, is that AI is just like anything else. It's not perfect and it's not always right,
Mm-hmm.
quite honestly. And so
True.
you have to be really cautious with this. And I would say that actually applies to credit unions as we continue down this path towards AI. Understand that the AI models that you're using are only as good as the data that's
Yep.
being used to build them and grow them.
All
It's
right.
really important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bill, flashback to childhood. What was the first album, CD, piece of music you bought or remember listening to?
Oh wow, yeah. I That's so funny. That's so I remember this when I was a young kid and my dad said gave me $5. This is my
Okay.
first thing that I bought. This dates myself again is vinyl.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what it was, and nobody else may even know who this artist was. His name was Jim Croce.
I love Jim Croce.
Okay. There you go.
Operator. Because you run the
We're from
place
Patriots
that's
there.
strong.
Yeah, and I remember that my dad was so disappointed because he wanted me to come back with some kind of classical music album, and I came back with Jim Croce. He's like, "What is this? I
Uh,
gave you $5 to buy an album, and you come back with this." And
uh,
you didn't tell me what I had to buy, so I bought this.
oh, come on, Dad.
Yeah, I know.
Because he died, super early,
Oh yeah, he
uh,
did die early.
very young.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song, Jim Croce?
I think that I like the one about you don't mess around with Slim. Do you
Oh,
remember that
Bad,
one? I can't
Bad
remember.
Leroy Brown.
Yeah, Bad Leroy Brown. That's exactly it. I remember
Yeah,
that. I like that song.
I love that song as a child. That was great.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think you're
yeah.
the first Jim Croce.
I was just thinking that's going to be a unique addition to our end of year playlist
Yeah,
for
Yeah, that's so funny.
artists for shared accounts guests. So,
that's wonderful.
yeah, love that. Okay, Bill, last question here today. What was the last movie that you watched?
And I'm assuming you're talking about at a theater or anywhere else.
Oh, it could be anywhere. No, it could be like on streaming. Yeah,
No,
because not
it
everyone goes to the theater anymore.
actually happened to be at a theater, and it was just this past
Oh,
weekend, and I
yeah.
watched Hamnet. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What'd you
Oh,
think?
I thought it was fabulous. I thought it was very emotional, really very strong, and extraordinarily well acted.
Paul Mescal and I'm blanking on her name. Gosh darn it. Hold on. She's expected to win the Academy Award this year.
She should. She should. It
hmm.
was phenomenal. It was really phenomenal.
Oh, Jessie Buckley. Duh.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
her name.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's
All right. Cool. Yeah.
the last scene in that movie where they're showing the
I
final
have
scene
heard.
from Hamlet itself is just one of the most moving things that you will see in a movie. It was just phenomenal.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's worth
Interesting.
seeing. But just be
Okay.
prepared. It's very emotional, so be prepared.
Oh
But it's
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
worth seeing for
Bring
sure.
your tissues. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Love it.
Okay. Well, I love that. I love the whole, yeah, just still going to the theater. And we actually, yeah, I hear a lot of that from our guests is they still like going. So that's cool to hear. I need to get back to a theater. It's been so long.
Well,
Just
that was the first time I've
realize,
been
yeah.
in 2 years,
Oh,
literally.
really? Okay. Yeah. So it's still like, yeah, it's not like a regular occurrence,
No,
but
unfortunately, I should be, but it's
it,
not.
yeah.
You beat the popcorn in a movie theater, right?
Yum.
Oh, yeah. That liquid, whatever you call it, liquid
Also, you know
gold.
what? A good movie margarita is kind of good too.
Yeah, they're doing that more and
Yeah.
more.
I know.
It's
Believe me,
pretty
I've
nice.
tried it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure you
Great.
did.
I love it.
Okay. Well, Bill Handel, this was a lot of fun. We
Oh yeah.
love hearing your very just excellent expertise for the credit unions, and we'll have to have you back for that 3-hour AI podcast.
Sure.
Maybe we'll see. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. But yeah, Bill Handel, general manager and chief economist at Raddon, a Fiserv company. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Natasha, and thank you, Michael. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Bill.
All right.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for downloading today's show. Please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times and all of those normal podcast places. And please be sure to share all of the episodes with everyone you know, coworkers, friends, relatives you like, relatives you don't like. It's a great way to start off the year.
Actually, let's start sharing the episode with ChatGPT and see what happens.
There you go.
I
Yeah.
would like to see that. Rate us 5
Bring
stars
them
too
in.
if you want. But as always, thank you so much to our producer, Zach Nyheisel. Thanks, Zach. Join us again next time for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.